Hey kids, it's me, Johnny Fox here at Snikt, and uh, tonight's guest is an artist. He's an advocate. He's an astronaut. He's got his own fashion brand. He's got his own perfume. Some of those might not be true. If you want to find out which ones, you'll have to stay tuned. He'll be with us. He'll be with us shortly. His name is John Ledger. You may have heard of him, you may not. You'll fucking well know about him by the time we're finished here. More than maybe you'd like. Maybe more than he'd like. I don't know. But I'm going to probe him. I'm going to probe him like those horrible grey aliens you read about in the pamphlets that the crazy person on the corner tries to hand you. You know the guy. I know you know the guy. So we'll be talking art, music, pop culture, maybe a little bit of politics, because isn't everything? So he will be with us very shortly, and we'll get into it. Modern technology. I love this bit. It's great. Stalling for time, stalling for time, stalling for time. So yeah. So we're gonna be talking. We're gonna be talking drawing. We're gonna be talking maybe. We're gonna mention the P word, kids, probably a little bit. That's pandemic. Inevitably, it's gonna come up. I think, but we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff eventually. And we're going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot. I'm sure. It's going to be educational and entertaining. It's going to be edutaining. Is this week's with John Legend? Nope. I'm sure he's out there somewhere in the wilds of cyberspace slash Barnsley, or somewhere in that general area. This was working like a minute ago. Like we always do a test before these shows, as you do, to check everything's working. Not that you'd know. um, so, drum roll. Not helping. Because you really don't want to be stuck with just me. You really don't. Who knows what I get up to? When left to my own devices, idle hands and all that. It's still a little bit nippy, but these clothes could come off. Anything could happen. It'd be much, much better for all concerned, I think, if John could just get here. But we're working on it. We're working on it. Any minute now. Well, ain't this just the most entertaining thing on the internet? I mean, you could be watching cute cats right now fall off tables or play amazing ping pong with some Chinese kids as they like bat it back and forth with just their tails. Their prehensile tails on the back, not their penises. You filthy minded. The people who tune into this, that's internet people. I should have expected it. Should have expected it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Ledger. Maybe I gave him too big a build-up and he's scared he won't be able to live up to the hype now. This should be a thing. Hey, look at that. Look, I got bumped. I hit my head on the ceiling. And we have a... Hey, look at this.
Yeah. It's
Hello!
Hey. I've never done anything via Instagram, on Instagram like this before, so it's still freaking me out a bit. It's like learning Zoom all over again. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, as I said earlier, I don't know if he was listening at all. Artist, advocate, astronaut. He's got his own fashion brand. He's got his own perfume. Some of those aren't true. You want to know which ones? You better stay tuned. You'll find out. So, John Ledger, this is the part where I simply say, tell the kids at home in your own words who you are and what you do.
I'm somebody who has sort of been doing art, if that's the right word, probably for about 20 years now, probably more, and I've sort of devoted my life to kind of creating things. Not a successful artist in any kind of material sense, but I've put every ounce of energy, sometimes energy that could have been used elsewhere, probably at better times, to create, to making things. And out of that, I guess I've come to be known as an artist in this area, specifically through like sort of my drawing style practice. There's a term that artists are encouraged to use through academic sort of kind of tutoring, which is they have a practice. I really still struggle with using it. It sounds alien to me, but I can use it. Yeah, my practice. The drawing practice is kind of what I'm known best for. It's a style that I developed in my early 20s. It was a sort of a very kind of immediate but non-immediate style, because I'm quite a cognitive person in the sense that I'm not people look at my work and sometimes think I'm very much a hands-on maker. I'm not. I think and overthink and then think about an appropriate title, an appropriate composition, and that's how the works come about. They're not specifically. There's a doodle element. You need to kind of hit ground with your spaceship at some point, but terrible metaphor. But yeah, that's how the drawings are kind of originated. But yeah, that's just me basically. Just been working on that in sort of the living in Barnsley, but kind of doing a lot of stuff in Sheffield and sometimes in Leeds for quite some time now, I guess.
Yeah, just to clarify for people, kids, no shit. This guy, we're not talking like he's been drawing cocks on buses for 20 years. We mean a legitimate artist that's had, you've had the exhibitions. Your work has been available in places in exhibitions for people to go see and shit. Like I know people, maybe they're a lot earlier in their journey, a lot more of the start of their path, than you are, and that's the kind of thing they're currently like dreaming about doing one day, and you managed to do it more than once.
Yeah, it's sometimes one of the sort of kind of difficult things. I think everybody who's kind of got into doing something that's not just a job. This isn't a job anyway as things stand. But it's the sort of after entire life surrounds from it is that sometimes you tend to look up with envy, then down with sort of kind of not pity, but down with sort of recognition of what some people might like have done, not done that you have done.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not very worded very well. And that's a kind of a case study. I sometimes forget what I've done. A lot of it's been DIY and all that, and you sometimes you're looking up at so and like just have an exhibition.
Oh,
So
it does,
you've got
yes.
to
There we go.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just probably like a really the kind of boring cliche question. I don't know. I'm going to try. I want to make this more of a conversation than an interview, but
Yeah.
there has to be questions in some way. So I don't know if you kind of get bored of people asking, but so the inspirations when that strikes you. So I guess like most artists in any medium, I'm going to we're going to just say, it's the world around everything's somewhat autobiographical, right? I would imagine. And then there's the world and the shit that's going on, and you know,
Yeah.
it's usually not, but it could be anything.
Um, the weird thing is that I worked in a gallery environment from being 23 to being 36. Just like I live at the side of Barnsley, which is close to Yorkshire Sculpture Park. And I used to work in the galleries there, just kind of pretty kind of steady away job, when like a venerated job at Sculpture Park or out like that. But I was in an art environment, I guess, aspects of it that I became kind of one more critical of, but other aspects that obviously fed in. That was sort of kind of like a background noise to kind of developing as a thinking artist. That was sort of kind of like the background noise, and the fact that I was working in the gallery, and every like year or something, there'd be like a new crop of people, and I'd probably remain great friends with a lot of those people afterwards. But we just had interesting conversations, and for the first couple of years of being there, it's not like that now. I think in probably any gallery environments, because since it kind of goes in like in kind of it changed literally when like the Tories got in and the cuts started coming in, that galleries had to change the tune, and smartphones came in at the same time, so they changed the tune to get everyone like literally wanting to like take photographs of everything, and it became a completely different environment. But there were a bit of time where it were it were like doing a university course. Oops, sorry. It's delicately placed. It was like you're doing a university course, but without the degree at the end. Just the kind of amount of time I had extra to like do it, and obviously like it were like it was quite a unique environment, and I really missed it when it was no longer kind of possible to do that anymore. But that was like a background sort of noise to like just kind of carrying on, and like just the feeding environment to carry on when a lot of folk who studied me actual degree at University Centre Barnsley, which a lot of people, there was a sort of kind of a stigma that I only realised when I went to Sculpture Park, that it was looked down upon a bit, like, oh, you didn't go to a crop eatery, did you? And that exists.
Yeah. I mean, I my past life in the so-called music business, way more business than it is music. That's nothing new, but I found a lot when I expect that you kind of part of the dream is how I'm like surrounded by other, artistic people with these visions and these crazy thoughts and all the things that comes with being an artist in whatever medium, and then there is, and so you don't. It surprised me. It shocked me a little bit. I expected everything to be really, just embracing and and when it's like, no, there's still these like cliques and a kind of not exactly maybe it's not such a class system, but like something
Yeah,
like along those lines still in place, even within the sort of creative community, and that really gets to me sometimes when I come across that, and when I come across stories of that, it really bugs me. It's the one
it's a
place
very
you'd think we could
yeah.
stamp that shit out.
It's a really I mean, it's really complex. I think because I think one of the things that like I'll give like a visual a visual tour, like doing my degree in Barnsley. I mean, it wasn't the initial choice. I went to Manchester, but I weren't particularly well in Manchester when I was 19, so I had to come back and do it in my hometown. I had a very close knit and kind of connected community, and people I'm still friends with through that. The tutors I was still really good friends with. Unfortunately, two of them have passed away in the last 6 months, so yeah, they're no longer with us. But it was a very close knit thing, and even in my hometown, I remember saying, "Oh, it's like a Wednesday night, it's freshers' night." For people who start university, and I think I was only fresher out. It was like the mid noughties, so it was really busy, but kind of like the big sort of kind of era of like going out on weekday nights and getting hammered and all that. So it seemed like everybody were doing it as well, but yeah, it were a different environment to kind of the university environment. But yeah, when I got to the sculpture part, that was a kind of just a really good place to keep it going, basically. Because I might have not been sort of kind of building up sort of kind of a career for myself in a kind of more formal vocational route. And there's been, I'll admit there's been some sort of kind of like issues with like ignoring that for quite some time, but just the amount of time to kind of keep thinking and doing has developed me into the person I am now and kind of maker I am now. Regarding other influences, I don't know. It's like I've never been somebody who's can say like, I love that artist. That
Yeah.
artist means so much to me. I respect and I like engaging in art and art criticism and all that, and I find it really intellectually like invigorating. But I don't. I, I think there's still the most formative like creative moments for me growing up were probably um like listening to like OK Computer when I were in my teens, Radiohead album. I know it's like a really kind of go to like big album, but I was just kind of the right age for it to make its impact in that sort of way. Um, and when I got a little older, I didn't used to read when I was younger. You see, I mean, the internet's like kind of just giving me everyone's so much ADHD, like at blowback now that it's like hard to read again. But I used to, yeah, there's certain books that have been really like powerful, and again, like they've often like sent me on like errand lost like routes from my work, and it's kind of like my work's gonna be a bit overtly political in a way that's perhaps not kind of interesting visually anymore sometimes, and that's been a result of reading some things. But it's like one book. I mean, everybody cites 1984 George Orwell. I was only 20 when I read it, and it were just a great read when I'd not read much else really. Just like a pictures version of the Jurassic Park kids book or something like that.
There's money
But and
in dinosaurs, man.
I,
That's
I
where
bet
the
there is,
money
yeah,
is.
still. Yeah, unfortunately, there's not enough dinosaurs in my artwork. Um, yeah, the main book that I always go to, and probably annoys people who are tuning in, who know me banging on about it, is a book called Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher. It's kind of it comes from like an academic environment. Well, he don't know, he sadly took his own life, but he was a very like he was really like in deep with all that French philosophy, but he brought it out and made it understandable, and he like basically like did this diagnosis of what like cultural state Britain were in like, and well, around about time of financial crash, and like reading it was like this fella's putting words to something I've never been to articulate before, and that sort of book and the entire like awakening that I had to kind of that way of thinking, has been really important to my work as well. But you know, by and large, I still feel like I don't know how to kind of say this is my focus. I mean, one of the things I've done a masters as well. I got a loan to do a masters up at Leeds. One of the things I always struggled with was saying, well, this is my focus in like an academic sort of approach to arts. This is my focus that I'm going to explore. It's just like I'm just fucking explaining how this like life feels to me, how this world feels to me. That feels valid, but it's not a specific. It's not a specialized focus, and that something I really struggled with. Having a specialized sort of focus. It's like this. It's the everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we've touched on it a little bit. I was so I was hoping I wouldn't forget to ask you how you feel about the kind of the juxtaposition of like, you know, going to like college or university or whatever, you know, for an art class, the kind of the somewhat contradictory nature of art obviously being subjective, and then but needing to learn to train and having someone, you know, to rate you on a specific kind of sliding scale of whether you're any good.
Yeah.
When of course you're good, we're all good. There isn't good and bad art. It's art. There's what you like and there's what you don't, and that's different for everybody, you know. But
I mean, I think
if you don't do that, how else do you learn anything?
it's a strange one. I mean, I'd say that art, like sort of, because it's dealing with something that's come from somebody, um, in a, I've lost my words there. Because you're dealing with something that's coming from like you, but I think art in itself is it gets to like essence of something that's really big in
Yeah,
my work anyway.
exactly.
Which
Yeah,
one of the things that sort of my work's always trying to tie with, because it's something that I've like when I've had like compulsive bad issues in my life or whatever, without going too much into it, and sort of kind of things that other people are saying just do that and it's like impossible to me. It's like, well, something that's become really important in my work is that grey area, that fine line between being a product to your environment and having like the free will to kind of move and act in this world as if there were no
yeah,
barriers. And I can go back into that in a bit, but going back to that question, it were art, I think, in itself, because it's a product of somebody, it's a come from somebody, but the things that have gone into that person,
oh no,
they're sort of it's we take it as like this objective outside reality. So art in itself dances between the concrete world we can agree on as being this and subjectivity, interiority. We are trying to sound going to too many heavy words here. So it like balances between them both. I think it
yeah,
balances between being a subjective experience and a shared experience, and I think that's where like stuff like politics can come into it, because it's like, I was having a conversation with a friend years ago, and he was saying how he'd done this picture about, I think it was about like the amount of, like the Woodhead Tunnel, the old
oh
railway that connected
yeah, yeah,
Manchester and
yeah.
Sheffield. It was about how all that, the navvies who built that tons of them died. And he was showing this like mother with a little kid, and then when he explained what it was about, it's like, well, I I see nice things in it anyway. I don't see that. It's like, well, I fucking painted it. So it's an endless topic basically. It's interesting though, yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
just feel like obviously because you can teach, you can teach and you can learn like the techniques, the kind of the physical machinations of you use these instruments, you use this equipment, you move it
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
way, but then there's that inspiration that
yeah, yeah,
only an artist has to decide to use
yeah,
those skills to create this piece, and that comes from
definitely, yeah.
that comes from something you cannot teach. That you either have that, it's either just a thing inside you that you've got to get out.
Sure.
The cliche that comes up like every week when I do this, that it is a form of therapy. Everybody's the vast majority of creatives creating for, I don't want to say the right reasons as such, but creating um, with just that beauty of soul to be creative, not the. I mean, some money's nice. You're never going to say no to some money, but like
No, no.
with not having that as the end goal.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it comes from a place that it's just a thing you can't teach, you know, and that's a big thing that always got me is I always obviously have like you can have all the masters you want.
Mm.
Someone can still look at your piece and go, "That's shit."
I mean, the
In
reason
their
I did it,
opinion,
yeah, the
So
reason I
like,
did the masters really was because it sounds cynical, but it was like I can get a student loan. I could get a student loan for a masters. Then they brought one in, and it was like I was working 5 days a week and things weren't really going anywhere, and I was sort of running out of steam to put in the hours in the extra spare time, which is what I've nearly always done. So I thought this is going to give me time to build. So I really want to build on my work now, and that's just what it did. It were I mean I loved being in. I do like university environments because I like the sort of the ease and the sort of the feel of them is what I always want to see like fucking everywhere, like the kind of the way that people just float around with books and things. It's just like, it takes the sort of kind of the academic structure out of that, and you've got kind of like the ideal sort of look of a
yeah,
society. And it's
I'm
just like,
I'm
imagine
inclined to
if that were
agree.
Barnsley Town, imagine if that were Barnsley Town Centre, and people could live that with that ease without the kind of the necessary grind. And that's what I love. I love the environment, even if it's sort of, yeah, is what it is. Yeah,
Yeah. So predominantly, so the majority of your work, uh, we class as drawing, I guess,
yeah,
but that was obviously, I guess, but that's still within different mediums, right? Like pen and ink or pencil, or there's different things you can use when you to try and get the right, try and get that thing from inside outside.
yeah, yeah. It's evolved. It used to be just biro, and that, yeah, that just evolved out of something, and it was just purely biro for like a few years, and then um, they're quite a popular tool now. And for years before that, I was just kind of I bring all sorts in like Tipex is in my works, uh, Bics, Crayola felt tips, all sorts. I try and hide them away from daylight so they can survive a little bit longer. Um, but Posca pens were I discovered something about 4 years ago through a work colleague called Posca pens, and they're a little bit posher than biros. So it's always like I'm a sort of cat. So I don't necessarily like it, but a long time ago people would always say like, oh, he's using biros as an artist of the people and all that. And I felt a bit uncomfortable about that sometimes, but it was like, well, it's just that they work well for me. But it was more that these Posca pens do feel a little bit posh now. They're quite expensive to buy, but they do something that I always wanted when I was younger. Because I was never good, particularly great with a paintbrush in the way that I
Yeah.
could build with biro. And so this Posca pen is basically this really sort of kind of nifty like paint pen. So it's a pen full of acrylic paint,
All right.
and it really sort of kind of joins the two together. And it, like a lot of things with art, sometimes like when you get something that makes something easy, you start to feel like, am I cheating here? But it's not
Yeah.
about that. I mean, it's hard. Yeah, I'll use anything if it looks good.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so that brings us nicely onto the potential controversy of the whole of AI. There's an
Oh yeah, yeah.
awful lot of I can't go a day without seeing some form of AI art. Do you have a take on that? I mean, it's still an ongoing, evolving thing, so it's not going to be the end when we're entitled to change his mind. We might do an episode later. He might have a different opinion.
It's not something. I mean, the closest I get to AI, I work like part time delivering adults. I mean, workshops with adults with learning disabilities. And the nearest I get to AI is getting an AI voice of Homer Simpson or Donald Trump to say something silly to one of the service users I work with. That's as close as I get, and even then, I feel like I've stepped too far. But it's more. I don't know. It, it it's something I don't feel like I know enough about. Um, I have reservations. I think that I often feel that are valid whether they're in a community who aren't art educated or not, about the kind of art that's done with almost cynical commercial
Yeah,
ends.
yeah,
And the like you think of somebody like Damien Hirst who's in the papers at the moment, and the certain kind of artists of a kind of certain era who would be sort of kind of like venerated on being smart, and it's like, well, he's smart. He's kind of made this good publicity stunt and made a lot of money. And just thought, is that the best we can do? And I
yeah.
think maybe it had its validity historically, um, but the NFT thing, I know it's different to AI. I always couple them together. That it's more this it's something I just never do. And AI, maybe there'll come a point in future where I might just in some, because one aspect of the work I make and one aspect I want to expand on, but I just don't have the resources recently, is filmmaking. There's a few on my Instagram that kind of just show like the bits and bobs I've worked on, and maybe it come one day where I think, well, AI are just kind of filling that little weird bit there where I
Yeah.
can't figure out what to do with. But so far, I can't imagine using it, and I can't I can't sort of. I mean, the old critical debate, I guess, is what what's the point of us if we assign off all our humanity to something that's post-human, extra-human, non-human, whatever you want to call it. Um, it's I don't know. Like I definitely like the idea of AI doing things to make our lives easier, not to make us lazy, not to make us lazy. I think I know full well that being sometimes doing a little bit of work in a week, not burning your sun out, but doing some work is good for mental health. You need to be around other people, but that some of the things that grind us down in like production lines or whatever you want to call them, or
Oh hell yeah! It can.
yeah, I think
AI can take my job.
yeah,
It can have it
yeah.
tomorrow. It's fine. I want to do this. I want to float through life with a book, meeting people like you, having conversations like this, and some fucking robot can lift heavy things instead of me at 6 a.m. in the morning. By all means, definitely. Like I said, the positives. I understand people's fears, and they can be totally valid. It's all about. It's like anything. It's like any power. Any tool, it can be used to create or destroy, and it needs to be in the right hands. Who are they? Who can decide who the right hands are? Not me. I'm not smart enough for that, so I don't know how we get there, how we get the power in the right hands. But
I
when you
think,
think of the
I mean,
potential utopia that can be created from, using the brains that we've got to be able to come up with a quantum fucking computer and
yeah,
artificial intelligence to make our lives so we can concentrate on more important things,
yeah.
like art
Well, I
and
think
philosophy
it's
and
about power. I think. I mean, it's one thing that it does. It does kind of make me sound like I'm, well, something that I probably am anyway. That like kind of it's something that because it comes from like an historic like Marxist like understanding of technology. So I'm aware that I might sound like that now, but it's for me it's about power, and I've heard and heard and heard different kind of new waves of technological entrepreneurs from maybe like the San Francisco area of California, whatever, say this technology is going to revolutionize our lives and revolutionize our lives, and they never talk about the inherent problems that are going to come with that before they usher in this kind of thing that we've got, and it's just for what ends those products are being used. It's like big tech now. It's not being used in the interests of the people who perhaps once thought the internet might have been a more democratic.
yeah,
I mean, it still is democratic on some level, of course it is, but yeah. But it also, yeah, it's something that I know that I probably don't know as much about as I'm speaking about here. It's something I probably need to, I should probably do a little bit more research on, I guess. It's something I've not dwelled on as much over the last few years at the expense of other things. Yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah,
not to not to put things on too much of a downer. This is definitely a thing I try not to do on these casts. But if you're old enough, if you're old enough and you've taken an interest in these things, like I am, it precedents have been set with things, and it doesn't look good. They don't fill you with much hope for the future. Looking at the past, and we keep repeating many mistakes. Um, we're trying to move. A simple example: we're trying to move into like electronic cars and electronic, well, basically everything. Certainly moving away from fossil fuels to electricity, like your electric car. Now, we have, human beings, the capacity. We created a saltwater engine like fucking decades ago, like in the 70s. It was patented in the 80s. We've got quite a bit of salt water. It's quite a resource we can get our hands on quite fucking easily. We can also create it somewhat artificially, very easily, very cheaply, much cheaper, much easier than electricity. But we don't have a saltwater engine. You're not driving a saltwater engine Prius because who bought the patent? Shell. Right?
yeah.
So when is that going to be released to the public? Don't hold your breath, kids. It's going to be a while. It's already been a while. It's already been like sort of 40, 50 years. It's
Right.
the invention of something that could revolutionize and change our lives for the better. And big business went, fuck you. We're not letting that happen. So,
This is the thing. I mean,
uh,
it's a big conversation in itself. I mean, as I said, just as kind of a sort of kind of a kind of a soft like kind of answer to it. It's just it's about power and who sounds terrible, but yeah, who
yeah,
owns the means of production and
let's go.
all that stuff.
Let's
Yeah,
you know what? You know what? Let's light this up. Let's do the quick bit of I've been doing this the last few. It's been kind of fun. So I'll do it with you. We'll do a quick bit of this or that. So
yeah.
it's pretty simple. So for example, cats or dogs.
It used to be cats, but because I used to be scared of dogs, got bit a few times. But yeah, I think dogs probably get on a little bit better with dogs now.
Yeah.
I've never had one, but yeah.
You know what? I think this is, if I'm right, I think this is episode 11. And I think everybody said dogs, right? To say that, like we're on the internet right now, which is pretty much dominated by cats. Like, like the most watched things on the internet is cats, is whether they're being cute or whether they're falling over or whatever, is cats. And yet everybody I get on here is a dog person. Why are you all watching the cat videos then? Watch the dog videos. I saw a great dog video where a dog just tearing down the side of some river or canal or whatever. Really, just let him, just free as a, well, not a bird, but a dog. Just running, just happy, just running and running and running. But what floored me was the caption said, "If Tom Cruise was a dog." I just thought that was great.
No, that sounds good.
Beer or wine, sir?
Uh, it's always beer. It's beer, even if there ain't any beer. Oh, if I go to an art opening and there's beer and there's just wine, I'll bring my own stubbies. Sorry, I'm not endorsing sort of alcohol in any sort of sense, but yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's another story itself. But yeah, I like the kind of way you can philosophize if you can. We have a friend over a beer, and obviously I know, yeah, we live in a time where a lot of people, for good reasons, have had a bit of a bad experience with alcohol. I think a lot of it kind of comes out of like growing up in like the 90s, noughties, and sort of kind of, but that's that kind of sort of culture of hedonism without a cause sort of thing. And I think a lot, yes, well, I always think carefully when I talk about alcohol now. And I think carefully about it to myself as well, because like, sorry, I'm making a big meal out of this, but a beery meal, but it's a big, yeah, it's a big topic.
So,
yeah.
After a few beers, what inevitably comes next is pizza or kebab.
Pizza. I'm a vegetarian.
Good call.
I could be a vegetarian kebab, but yeah, pizza. Yeah.
So country living, no, city living, or country retreat.
You know what? I was listening to this one when you were talking to Katrina. The instinct is to country living. I wanted to put a twist on it and say, I think city living should be brilliant. I think there should be the space in how cities are built, the way cities are built, the way people are able to live in a city. Going back to that university thing I was talking about earlier, I want to live in a city that's built for people, for everybody to live good lives, rather than live in the country, because it always feels like I'm trying to escape.
Mm.
I love the countryside, but yeah, it was always, as if I was an idealist kind of element to me, like growing up in my earlier adulthood, it was that I want to see these cities I'm living around being like, manifesting to the true potential for like everybody. Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer.
No,
yeah.
No, that's fancy. You get my vote. So, would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf?
Oh, that's a strange one. That's coming.
We're a bit silly now. Why not?
Oh, is it like that? I guess. I don't know. God, that's thrown me. That. They're both nocturnal. They both kind of. Do they both like sort of exist in like a sort of kind of semi? I'm just gonna say werewolf, just because I like the aesthetic of the North Yorkshire moors better than Whitby.
Why not?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being a hairy individual. So, have you ever seen a UFO?
No. When I was still an unidentified flying object that me and any friend I went to Kexborough Junior School with went on a trip to London in '93 first trip I ever did to London, and we're sat we're all sat on this bus, and like at least three of us said, "That's why is there a London bus in the sky?" And we've never come to the bottom of that. Whether it was some publicity stunt by the Daily Star or whatever, it was just like there was there was definitely a consensus that from three of us at least that there was a double decker bus in the sky over London, and yeah,
Okay.
nothing ever. Yeah.
So just to expand on that, then the whole aliens, UFOs. What do you think? Do you think we've been visited, or maybe they're among us right now? Do you have a
I
take on that at all? Got enough to
I
deal with, not bothered about the lizard people. Oh shit!
oh, so there's always that like talking to a friend ages ago. We're getting a bit heavy. We were getting a bit heavy into kind of. There's a friend who I did do art projects with, and we did an exhibition called Global Sapiens, and we it was probably the most like radical I think I was thinking ever in art. It was around the time of like the Occupy movements and
Right.
all that, so everything seemed to like it felt like there was like this critical mass thing emerging almost, but there was a sense of like something needs to change, and things felt more visceral, like the world, like and its kind of potential threats. Then perhaps now I feel a little bit more kind of the blow has been softened, whether that's good or bad. But we had a conversation, and he started talking about this idea of divine intervention. And I think that's a lovely idea. If we, but it's like it's sort of it's thinking of UFO in a sort of sense of like come save us, rather than kind of an interest perhaps in uh, creatures from other planets. I've always quite interested in I don't know. Uh, yeah, I, I I should have a better interest in sci-fi things, but uh, there's always like vague references I think that people pull out of my works about it. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting one. I've always thought about that with my work, and sort of things. Not conspiracy. Not saying aliens are necessarily a conspiracy theory, but things that fall into that kind of category of like where they're dealt with by science fiction writers or
Yeah.
fictional writers, and I think a lot of things that are used in science fiction, for example, like things like think of the Matrix. They're metaphors for something that not actually quite as obvious as that, and we use metaphors to like speak about things a bit more abstractly that we all experience in life, and I think that's one thing that I've always like done in my drawings, but it's sometimes not necessarily been understood that I'm not literally saying that we're all going to be eaten by this giant thing. It's a metaphor for something else. I'm really going off on one there. I'm just literally trying to kind of find something interesting to add to this UFO a little bit, because I feel like painfully lacking with an
No, not at
interest in
all. No.
UFOs.
Oh, so have you ever seen a ghost?
um, no, but I've always been interested in the idea of them, even if I don't believe in them. I love the idea of them. Um, I thought I did when I was about 5. Thought I saw a Roman legion, whatever they call, stood at the bottom of my kid's bedroom. But me as a kid, not my kid. I'm only 5. But yeah, that was just half sleep. Actually, same again. It's been things when I've been half awake. I was staying in London for a bit. Next to me, just like looking over me, and I just said, "What do you want?" And then like quickly ran to light, and they went out there. I just listened to shipping forecast all night then, just to calm myself down.
that's, that's brilliant. So uh, we mentioned Radiohead briefly earlier. Throw some of your favourite musical artists at me.
Obviously, yeah. The artist I'll go for artists that like have like been like really important. I think creatively, because I go on and off things. I find it hard to kind of have like set in stone things.
Mm.
I think Radiohead's okay. That period of Radiohead, OK Computer, Kid A, Amnesiac. That was like a really crucial formative moment of like thinking creatively. Um, there's probably elements of like Stanley Donwood, the album artist, for Radiohead in the work in how I first started developing my own style, and I'll own up to that because it was just very as a package of art and music, it was a very powerful influence on me. Uh, Before or after, big fan of Kate Bush. I love the way she'd just bring everything in. I just love the kind of the broad how vast a creative energy seemed to have been, and the way she'd just bring things in, and just create this like alternative like kind of reality sort of. You'd probably call it ethereal, isn't it? But yeah, Kate Bush. I would say Joy Division, but I've always described Joy Division more as sort of taking a tablet than loving something. It's a kind of a frame. It's a frame of mind that sometimes makes life more manageable. It's a very black way of managing life, black in sort of kind of the blackness of the music. But it's been part of my life for all my adult life is Joy Division's music. So I definitely had that. I just think of a couple of other examples. In like the 2010s, I was, albeit via Mark Fisher, the writer I spoke about earlier, Burial, the ambient artist Burial, his sort of kind of music sort of kind of felt very sort of easy to slip into to kind of think about the world I was in. There's a big aspect to my work that is loosely called psychogeographical, and it's like speaking and writing and doing mapping about urban space and suburban space in a way that allows you to kind of get a grasp of your reality and your experience of that place. And Burial's music kind of became a soundtrack to that for me in the 2010s. Early Sleaford mods, because when I first heard the Sleaford mods, it just felt like these fellas are saying something that's felt totally missing in a time where there's a different kind of messed upness happening that's not equatable to the experiences like the punks were experiencing in the 70s or the 80s. And they just managed for a couple of albums to like hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, with how it felt in the 2010s. And I'll just pick one of the artists just because I think there's just one album I keep returning to. I wouldn't say the big up there, but a female artist called Lone Lady, who there's just a couple of albums I've heard of hers in 2010s, or one of them was sort of this period anyway. And they just there was like these soundscapes that see, there's a big aspect to my work that's fascinated by the idea of lost futures and the idea of like things that could have been.
Yeah.
Again, through Mark Fisher, but these kind of senses of things that haunt the present, and it's not haunting in a literal sense of like a ghost. They're more like traces of what could have been, like whether it's personal or in society. And she creates these albums that like feel just like almost like that kind of morning ice, sort of crispy feeling of kind of that I can't explain it more than that. It's just like there's like a haunting sense of absence in a music, even though it's quite conventional kind of like indie music in a sense. Yeah. But I also realise I talk about things over intellectually, so I'm probably missing out all the songs I listen to when I've had a drink or, like, I don't think I've listened to Barbie Girl for a while, but there's always chance, isn't
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. After a few drinks, all this can go away. After a few drinks, it's just Adam and the Ants all night.
there? Yeah, I'll still go back to Oasis just because they were a formative band when I was 12. I don't necessarily like kind of. I don't even need to really go into that. It's just it were it were music that very much kind of what would you care created the background noise of like being 12 years old in
yeah,
the mid 90s.
yeah. So the last film you watched that you'd recommend. Now, this doesn't have to be a
Oh,
new film. You could have the last film you watched that you'd recommend could have been something you watched 20 fucking years ago, or you could have watched it yesterday, but the film might be an old film from 20 years ago. So I'm not necessarily asking to be on trend or anything here, but or maybe not the last film, but certainly a film that you would recommend people should see if they haven't.
I mean, it's another thing with me. This is one thing that I think I spend way too much time thinking about things and trying to do work that film is something I love, but it's something I rarely fucking see because I'm always on with something. But there's a film I became fixated upon in the last year called Radio On, and it's a film from the late 70s. Um, but the weird thing about it's all in black and white, and it's like this, like it's just like urban landscapes. It's this fella just kind of complete one. He's got something to sort out in Bristol, so he travels more or less on the M4 area. But it just like soaks in like all the things that were happening at that time, and the soundtracks like Kraftwerk and Berlin period
All
David
right.
Bowie, but he's actually listening to it. It's not like a soundtrack in the
Yeah.
background. He's putting cassettes in his car and listening to it, and it's not very good to describe it in that way, but it's like
Well, I'm
I don't
gonna
know,
I'm gonna
like
find it.
it's like a 70s. It's a BFI film, but it's like these days people try to recreate. We're perpetually trying to recreate the past as how we remembered it because it's hard to be in the present because we're constantly bombarded and we're just in a
Yeah.
state of perpetual like forgetting. So we were constantly like trying to recreate yesterday, how yesterday looked. The weird thing about this film is that it was made at the time of it being made, and but it feels like they were almost aware of the moment they were in while we're in it. I can't, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we are going too heavy into all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
um,
I'm down. I am gonna find that. I'm gonna find that, and I'm gonna try and find that. Try and watch that this weekend. I think that's sold it to me anyway. I
I
can go. I could spend an hour or two with that. I think.
best
Um,
thing I've sold in a while.
it's it just art doesn't pay, does it?
No,
It's
no. I mean,
not.
to be honest, it's a difficult thing as well because I sold some works to a fella in Austria, which was that really like. I'm really like. I mean, basically, I walked into the Weatherspoons in Barnsley, Joseph Brammers in 2012, and my old art tutor were there, sat with a bloke in his probably in his 70s then, with bright pink hair, wearing bright pink shirt, and he introduced me to him and said, "This is this gentleman. He lives in Austria. He think you're English," and he said, "Just send him some of your work. He might like it." And it's like, so he sent over a crate to put my work in. But since Brexit, because one thing I always ask is like, if I've got a show, I'd love to have them works back so I can show them.
Yeah.
Because it takes me so long to create a work that if I can't have them back, if I've got out there, I'd like to show them again. It's like I, I'm clutching at things, but because of Brexit, he can't give me them back anymore. So it creates like a reluctance sometimes to sell anything that you can't get back when you spend like maybe 4 months thinking about something, then drawing it, and which I know is a long way around, but that's just the way I work, I guess. Yeah,
Well, I mean, you do what you've got to do. Oh God. The thing is, I don't feel. I don't know about you. Uh, I don't think we promote it anywhere near enough. Certainly in the UK, I don't think art in almost any form. whether it be a more traditional drawing, painting, sculpting, or whether it's uh, whatever it might be, whether it's like acting, singing, fucking filmmaking in some form or whatever. I don't think any of it is really promoted the way it should be. Um, like to the kids, it doesn't seem like a viable career choice, a thing you can do. It seems like a thing that only like special people somehow get to do, usually in America. Um,
Well, this is an
I
interesting one
don't feel like
because
it's like for me, I know I have the alleged musical background, and you just face it. It's like get a proper job kind of attitude. Because
yeah, you're
I
battling
know it's
against that
ridiculous. I
all
know
the
to turn
time.
around and say
Yeah.
I want to be a rock star is kind of a stupid thing to say, or I want to be an artist or whatever, a practicing. I want to be a working artist in whatever medium. I want to be a ballerina. It doesn't. I feel like we live in a country that doesn't go for it, and it doesn't provide you with opportunities or the scholarships or training or really much support at all for almost any medium. Considering we're a country that's produced so much great stuff historically.
That's the interesting thing, though. I mean, a lot of it's historically exactly, and I think one thing that there's that I like think that people who are trying to pursue their dreams, whatever it says, I won't quite see it in those words, but I just do what I do because it feels necessary. But and it kind of feels that that's just where things lead me. It's not like I've just decided one day I'm going to sit down and be lazy, and because that's the perception, isn't it? That's the perception
Can
that
be.
you're being lazy, and what it means really is just that we've got a few generations of people now who've grown up in a culture that's been like actively like sort of anti anything that's like looks a bit lazy. Like we've been told to hate people on benefits and culturally and all this stuff. And so when it comes to artists, it's just like there's something that's been built up for a few decades, like that, especially when somebody's just had a job which has ground their dreams down. There's like there's this shared like culture of like just like being hostile to something that's still like trying to do something that aren't accepted life to be this like brutal sludge of like one day
Yeah.
after day. And I think that's like been, I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm not going to much, but I think I think it's been a political project the past like few decades. I mean, I've read into all this stuff, so it's not like just me thinking it, but I think it's an objective to kind of try to blot out them spaces where people can think and do and behave, and physical spaces as well, because this is something I'm big about at the moment, because I don't have my own studio at the moment, and some people, well, that's, if all of us on a studio, I want it, but it's like, well, why not? Why not? Why can't we all have a space where we can just do something?
Yeah.
And if sometimes we don't fancy going to put to do with work or a cafe, we've got something, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes, have you ever tried doing your work on a laptop? You've got nowhere else to go to on a Saturday night,
Mm.
and comments you get and aggro you get, it's not worth it. And that's kind of it. It's like there's this culture that's just feels like this. It feels like a political project to try to blot out the space to do anything different. And going back to like this history of music and art in this country, a lot of it does stem from that period after the Second World War, where there was a little bit more of a space for people to live without the fear of like being turfed out if
Yeah.
they were, or going up, being homeless or whatever, if they're just like chilled out a bit. All bands, some of the bands, the most loved bands at 80s did what they did because they're on the dole.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything new here, but I think when you're getting on about kind of like the things that a lot of people who are trying to make art these days are up against, when they're not necessarily trying to do it to make money straight away, that's what you are up against. It's like it's something that's sort of been like, in my opinion, engineered.
I cannot disagree. I've been saying very similar things for some time to anyone who'll listen and people who don't want to listen. So yeah, don't disagree much at all with a lot of that. I mean, one of the things when I'm not going to name any names. When one incarnation of a band I was in was at our most successful period, a thing that I got. One of the big things that shot us down was actually a band member when he started saying things like, when I was sort of in charge of like I did most of the like promotion and the booking and that kind of side of things. Not to mention the songwriting, but anyway. So when I'm like getting around the guys, trying to make sure everybody's free, on various dates to do this, do that, and when they start seeing things like all my days off are turning into band days, and I'm going, yeah, ain't it great? Like, that's the point, isn't it? Isn't that why we're here? Well, all days, every day should be a band day. That's the fucking point, isn't that? But when it's not, because he's got, because because he's tired, because he's had to do the day job, and somewhere in between he's got to balance. The girlfriend wants to go to the cinema, and I don't want to begrudge anybody in my band having a girlfriend or anything. It's just like, you've got to have that focus. If you're going to make it happen, it's not going to come to you. There's a certain level of commitment as well, on your part. Like I say, you have to put the work in. However easy it seems, however good, when as you said earlier, when you're looking up at favourite artists, anybody out there, you won't be looking at me. You might be looking at John, but you're certainly not looking at me when I say this. But when you're looking up at your favourite artists out there, and they're really good at it, and they're really good at it, there's obviously a certain amount of natural talent. There's techniques and skills that they've learned and they've honed through an infinite amount of hours of practice, but there's obviously a natural innate talent there, and you're thinking like, I don't have that, I can never be that good or whatever. But it's because they fucking work. That there is that natural talent that has to be there. Not everybody's Michael Jackson. Not everybody can be Prince. Some things are a little bit like special, but for the most part, and even those guys, it's fucking hard work, and it's putting the work in, and it's putting the hours in. More work and more hours, more grind than you do at the shitty day job, but hopefully it's more rewarding, more satisfying, and hopefully if it gets out there to the public and it makes someone else think, or it makes someone else smile, or whatever you're hoping to achieve, or it's not what you were going for, but who cares as long as they're digging it, then it's all worthwhile. But you do have to put the work in.
I think you do. What I would say is that you are always battling against to go back to the last message, a culture that's trying to drag you in all different ways, a society that's like telling you this is where you'll find happiness, and as sort of sort of kind of belligerent and like pig and narrow, and can't get the right word out, like single-minded you are to avoid that. It'll get in, and they get into some people more. And I think one thing we love in our culture, it seems like the harder things get for people to kind of at least even have that spare time just to do something. We aren't feeling like they've been like screwed up like a piece of paper by the job before they've got to that point in the day, like burnt out. The one of the things that we do love as a society, or at least in the papers and stuff, is that story of that person who's come from poverty and ended up being this amazing person. And I think a lot of the time that seems to get more and more sort of louder. Like the more and more people find it harder. And I think I definitely agree that you need commitment and you need some element of something. You need something that you're hitting against in order to create something almost. But I think um, life could just be that little bit easier on everybody, and who knows, you might have like tons more great music or tons more great art. That's my philosophy on it. I think that you do need that commitment and things. But I think it's also more just drive. If you've got that drive, if it's in you, you can't give it up. You're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, from experience, I've done that where you can't give it up, but your job's taking everything out of you as well, and you burnt candle at both ends. And that's, even though you end up creating some of your best work, it's not a pleasant
Yeah.
experience. So I think it's just, just the desire for a kind of a world where everybody can just have that little bit of an easier ride, and then life hard enough without making it extra hard already. And then see what we produce, because I bet we'll be producing as people will be fulfilling their creative potential far more than they are now.
Oh, that'd be beautiful. Oh,
Yeah, but I know you agree with that, so
yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think that's it. It's. I mean, it's not. I mean, like you say, that it's. I mean, who can't look around? Right now, the world's not in the greatest place it's ever been, and I keep repeating this. I keep saying this, but it's whoever I've got down there in whatever medium they're working in. I can't thank all of you enough for doing what you do, and certainly everybody who puts it out there in public is just so fucking brave um, to do that. But we need it. We need it as much as we ever have, if not
yeah,
more so.
definitely.
Like I
Yeah,
said, whether it just makes people smile, whether it makes people happy, whether it just makes your foot tap, it's just a catchy tune, or maybe it's something that really makes you think. It's all good and it's all useful, and God knows we need to, like I said, just to get out of that formulaic robotic grind.
yeah,
Just to put
yeah,
on your favorite tune. If you can get home, and you look at the piece of art you've got hanging on your wall for 5 minutes, you just sit and chill and just
yeah.
immerse yourself in
It's a
whatever it
five
is you
minutes.
like. I mean,
It's a 5 minutes we fear we don't have these days a lot of the
yeah,
time.
exactly.
Yeah,
um,
because there's too much clinging at too much things beeping in his pockets. And yeah,
yeah, it is. But hey.
but yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not a. Thing is, my work's very dark, and that's like talking about things in all this like sort of sense of darkness. I mean, I'm somebody who I still class myself as like I always class myself as a punch drunk idealist. Like I sometimes walk around like worlds on my shoulder, but give me time and I'll flower if the climate's right for a world that I generally, as I said, I generally thought that we were moving towards a better sort of society in the 2010s, and it's been a bit uphill to kind of see what's happened after the pandemic in many respects. But that's also because I often think that for how dark things get, there's always a shadow of what could be. I mean, and that's what we like potentially lose if we just like watch what's happening in Gaza and just sit back, and not that I know what to do myself, but I mean even kind of in spirit, just kind of thinking to ourselves that this isn't right. At least it's something more than nothing. And I think that's always like the sense that however dark things get, and I often don't feel this myself, but I definitely believe it. We're haunted by the shadow of its opposite, which is a world that could be better than this, and that's always like what
No,
what's behind my dark, however dark my work gets, that's what's behind it.
yeah, it because it comes from a pure place, because it's coming from it comes from the soul, it comes from the feelings. So it's like just take it, use it, kids. That whatever it is that you're feeling, the
Yeah.
anxiety or the anger or the sadness or whatever it is, try and find a way to use it, to mold it, to put it into something positive, create something with it, if possible. To perhaps soothe your own soul, perhaps the souls of others interacting with your medium, at least, because it's just try and use it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
energy. It's just it's I get all really hippie trippy. It's all fucking energy. There's like positive, negative. It's just energy, and you can take it and mold it into what you need it to be, either for yourself to get you through, and or to help others. Potentially both. More often than not, has the potential to do both. So do it. And the people who do, uh, as I said, the artists, the people get on here in whatever medium, it's beautiful because I can't, and I'm just in awe of it and inspired by it because I've realised probably took me way too long. I think to realise that I can't do it, that I don't have it, that whole like I'm going to save the world through my music bullshit was entirely bullshit. No, I didn't want to be number one. I didn't want to. I've always known, you'd give me a multi-million-pound record deal and fame and fortune, and I'm campaigning that motherfucker within 12 months. I'm pretty sure I can't handle that, so I'd never really wanted that. Um, I would kind of always preferred like the respect of your peers, I get kind of thing, as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
like millions of dollars of fame or whatever. But it'd be nice to be able to do art and pay the bills without the job in between. It'd be like, but yeah, I'm completely separated from that whole idea. The songs that I tried to write, I can probably articulate better doing something like this, um, with the right feedback from the right kind of people.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
points that I tried to make in endless, half empty or half full, depending on your perspective, rooms of beer swilling people talking over the top of me while I was trying to sing at you and teach you something, while I
Yeah.
was on
Yeah.
stage naked, soul bared,
Hmm.
and you couldn't give a shit. Um,
Yeah.
probably something like this is maybe a better context for me. I don't know. It's certainly more fun for me. I'd certainly learn more from talking to people, and I think I realised that was slowly but surely. I started to realise that was my favourite part of any gig. A bit of banter in between songs, and kind of getting it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they didn't listen
Yeah.
to. We just played this song, which personally I think is awesome, which is a bit cheeky because I wrote it, but and we nailed it. We played it really well. We had all that like interband telepathy synergy that you hear about, and we all looked at each other and was like, oh, we felt something on stage. Did not translate to the people off the
No.
stage.
No.
They don't
No.
give a flying fuck. And then in between the song, somehow I make what I think is some like smart ass social political comment about something I've seen in the news traveling to the gig that day, and I can get cheers or boos or things thrown at me. And I'm like, yes, that's what I wanted, a reaction. I wanted you to pay attention to me, god damn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I may be better served doing this. Or maybe people really just want me to shut the fuck up. I don't know. But I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right so far.
Oh, it's been good. Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't get much time for movies. You certainly don't get much time for TV then. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
really do the TV thing, then, I imagine.
It's not from lack of what. There's so much stuff I want to watch. You know what I mean? It's just yeah, trying to find time. It's just trying to like find a time for something to be meaningful. Uh, and that sounds weird because it's like back in like the 90s when TV just like dominated your central room or whatever. You weren't looking. You weren't saying I need something to be meaningful today. You just watched them and it might have been meaningful. And you talk about it with people the day after. But
Yeah.
yeah. Now it's like you have to kind of actively seek something that's going to feel meaningful or kind of profound in your or in any sort of sense of things. Yeah, but uh, yeah. It's yeah. I often don't kind of have anything like a list of things. It's something I always feel quite alienated from. In like work conversation about what people are watching on Netflix. It's like, oh, sounds good, like, but I've just like got all this stuff I'm trying to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, being busy is good. I wish. I mean, I do this once a week, and I really do. I wish I could do it every day. Like you said, I want to live in your world, or at least in your city. I want to live in Ledgerville. I want to just float around with these other people floating around. I want to go, hey, what's that book? And I want them to tell me. I want to then have to spend the next 5 hours listening to them tell me how great this book and this author is. Or like I could have read the fucking thing at the time. It's, you know,
I've got
I want
I've
that
got a spoon
connection.
there. You could ask me about that. Pipex.
No, then remember the truth. There is no spoon.
Yeah, I figured out
Hey,
where
we got
that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there's no. We mentioned before that there's no particular like artist as such that you hold up like big inspirations. I want to be like that guy. You want to be you.
There's somebody. I mean, there's somebody who I actually follow who supports my work on here. She doesn't make work like me, but her work vastly informs my work, called Laura Grace Ford. She doesn't necessarily post her work on Instagram. It's like more just sort of observations, like wandering around London. But she's like a wanderer. She walks a lot, and that's something I've done a lot in my life. Just kind of walk without, not like going for a night, like with your flask and I mean, like in just like urban wandering around,
yeah.
where we be it for me like Leeds, Sheffield, Wakefield, Barnsley sort of thing. And she's always sort of been a big of inspiration since I discovered her work about 10 years ago. I just found that she's got a very poetic way about a very kind of like drifting way. Like the way she creates audio work sounds like she's drifting through a city, but she drifts in her words through time and space. So you go from like one era to the other, and she ends up like making some really like profound things about like society and things without needing to be like on the nose about it. And it's very different from the work I make. And a lot of the people who inspire me don't make work like I do. I just make work like I do because it works for me. And yeah, when it comes to visual sort of like comparisons, I always feel a bit silly because it's like, well, I don't really know, like, but yeah, I say a lot of the artists I'm inspired by in the visual art world. A lot of them are sort of like there's another artist called Patrick Keeler, and he does like similar things to Laura Grace Ford, kind of like more spoken word, poetic, like urban geography. Yeah, and that's kind of like just look nothing like my work, but it's in there somewhere.
Yes. So is there anything? Uh, I'm not entirely sure I'm going with this as such, but is there anything that you want to? Is is there anything that you kind of somewhat specific um, to achieve that you'd like to achieve outward? You know, like if you're a band, you want to play a certain arena, or so you want to play like Madison Square Garden or something like that. You want to like some kind of goal, some kind of bucket list, kind of maybe
I
somewhat
do.
ridiculous, shoot for the moon kind of. I would love it if my work was exhibited, there, or if this a certain person might even take an interest and want to buy a piece of mine. I would just to know that like that person has a piece of my stuff in their storage, probably. But
Two things, I guess. The first thing in the ambition now is to like try and build a more sustainable life and art together. There's been a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of kind of self-destructive aspects of my adult life. Often kind of to the point where art's been something I've tried to escape, because it's felt like the rush, the visible rush of a personality disorder that I can't keep in check. But I've tried and failed many times to give up. It's the opposite for Laura Pope, but for me, it's I want to stop making work and live a more rounded life rather than doing this all the time. But it hasn't worked. So that's one of my main goals, is to like live a good life, but keep doing this, and make it feel like it's not something that's always hanging off edge of a cliff, threatening to throw itself off the work. I'm not making any dark comments about the work itself. I know I realised as soon as I said that that's a bit dodgy, John. But that, and just I always just want to make a work that feels. There's a quote about there's an art writer called John Berger, and he's writing about that artist called Giacometti, who makes them really, really, really thin sculptured people. I mean, big artists in 20th century. If you'll know his sculptures if you see them, like the thinnest people sculptures ever. And he says like the artist's work is only ever completed in death, and what he means by that is like the finite. And he was looking at Giacometti because his works were getting thinner and thinner and thinner. He almost seeing it like the works are trying to come to the vanishing point of his own, like death, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I'd kind of say is that I've always just wanted to do something that felt like it must have felt Tom York when he written OK Computer. I still come from a mentality of thinking in like these landmark albums that like made a big impact in my earlier life. Just to have done something like that in any visual art form that feels so complete, what looks from the outside to be so complete, and I've never done that. I've come close with a film on a personal level, but it wasn't accessible enough, I felt, for other people. But that's my goal, yeah, just to kind of, it's just, well, basically just to make better and better work. Because I could have just said that straight away, couldn't I?
So have you ever, I know you said most of your work, it's a long process to get to something that's, do you find it hard to stop? You know, to know when a piece is finished?
A lot of people would think so from what they've said to me, but no, I know when it's done. It's just like I can't look at you anymore. You need to go away.
Yeah. So so have you ever finished a piece, taken that step back to admire your work, and thought it's a bit shit, and not like this one? Have you ever not liked one of your own pieces and just thought?
I mean, I work in a really weird way. I mean, I'm quite.
This one.
There's a couple of works that have gone off quite quickly, but I mean, my works in general, I make a lot of like studies for them. Like they're not like just doodles. They're studies, and that I'm thinking about them for a long time. Yeah. And I'll start making one, and it'll look terrible, so I'll rip it off the wall and rebuild it, and it doesn't feel. To many, I get people, I guess that might sound like it lacks the spontaneity, like just like throwing something and keeping going and seeing how it goes. I mean, there still is spontaneity in there at points, and spontaneity in like coming up with the idea, but there's a lot of thought gone into it before, and this obviously there's things I like less, but yeah, I, I don't think maybe it's yeah. I'm more self-critical of my work than myself than I am self-critical of the work I produce. It's like I'll have an argument about who I am as a person in my own
Yeah.
head, but the work itself, it's just like I'm all right with that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I like asking that kind of question. I like to know what people think because I know, as I've said, I'd like all my work is shit. Um, like looking, but even as you said, you can go off a piece quite quickly. I like I like all the songs back in the day. I went off my stuff so quickly. Like wait, like from like for yourself, the amount of time it takes to put the thought in, then to physically do the work, then to potentially get that work somewhere where someone else can maybe see it and have their thoughts and comments. Similar, the time I spend thinking about it, I spend doodling, and then it's like then going into rehearsals and jam sessions, and you even trying to get other people to try and get on board with the vision that you have. You want them to do
yeah,
their own. You definitely want them to do their own thing, but at the same time you have this vision because I've kind of partly wrote this. So I know where I want it to go, and I need them to get on board with that and do that. And then by the time all that's done, and then you've rehearsed it and everything else, by the time you can perform it to someone, let alone like record it, by the time you can just get a crappy gig down the Dog and Duck or whatever and perform it to someone, I don't like it anymore. Yeah. For the most part. Sometimes there's things then I've started to like them later on, and then gone off them again. Like a lot
yeah,
of the times, it's like I like the concept, like I like what he was aiming for, but
yeah.
I don't think he quite got there. Is how I
I,
feel about most of stuff. Like I get
I
the
think it's good to
content,
have
but
critical reflection, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
it's it's good to be able to kind of critique your own stuff sometimes. I mean, definitely, I think there's a healthy level to it. But I think it's healthy to at least kind of say actually that's not as good as I want it to be. And I think it's something that a lot of us fail to do sometimes. We can get wrapped up in it so much as artists and get so, especially if we've got sometimes even if you're in a collective or community, can be so absorbed in something that you forget to see that the outside world has no idea what it is you've done. And I think, yeah, that's always it might not be a danger if you're just happy doing something for
Yeah,
the own ends of doing it, the process, of course, yeah. But if you wanted to do something that's engaged with others, but you've become so absorbed in your thoughts, then I've done that a few times and with like other sorts of projects, artistic projects, and it's a big learning curve.
So have you done much sort of collaborative work with other artists?
Yeah, yeah. Different sort of work, I guess. The drawing sort of work I do, it's very like specific. It's very like introspective in how it's produced and all that. But I work sort of loosely work with an artist-led collective called the Retro Bar at the End of the Universe. We've sort of play on the hitchhikers thing, but more focused on the amount of retro bars that have cropped up around towns and cities. And we did different sort of projects than I would like do in like the things that I guess people know me to be creating. So they were more like trying to be socially engaged and
Yeah.
trying to kind of encourage people to kind of engage with that's a social engagement. And just a lot of that was us working as a group together and just enjoying like riffing ideas off one another. And I think if any of them are watching this, I think we all know that sometimes you can get to the point where you're not saying something that anybody else can understand,
Mm.
because you've been engaged in that thing. for so long that and that's something that I think if you're wanting other people to see your work, you need to kind of learn from when there has been like shortcomings. So there's been that, yeah, but I've done group shows, a lot of group shows in Sheffield in 2010s. Not so much since the pandemic. I think since pandemic, I'm just trying to rebuild practice, to be honest. I'm trying to re-engage because I think I just hit a certain age around that time, and I think a lot of us we felt a lot older after that. Then lockdowns had ended, and I didn't have the energy I guess I had in the early 2010s. But a lot of the shows I did were around that period, like in Sheffield group shows. Um, some of them kind of had more of a political edge to them. Some of them were just like group shows with people I knew. Um, and yeah, it never I never got to the point where it like moved too much beyond the Yorkshire boundaries. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff for a small period of time, and the idea is to get at least half of that energy back now. But I think when you grow as an artist, I don't know. I guess some people are different, but I think I think that when you grow older, you sort of lose that ability to do things quicker and quick, and it becomes more like thought out, and
Yeah.
there's less things. That's where I've experienced anyway.
Well, well, do you know, it's wow, time flies by, doesn't it? Um, so you know what? If I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go. We could do this. We could do this for quite some time, I think. But I've got a few other things I need to get. A few promises I've made.
No, no worries.
I need to get done. For a change, I promise I'd try and keep it short, so like 2 hours. It's short, but I don't know anything. But it's been a pleasure, sir. Kids,
Oh no, same
this
to
is
you. Yeah.
this has well not has been, but I mean always will be. I mean unless he changes his name to Numchuck Bitch or something. But this
Not yet.
this is
Not yet. Maybe give me some time to think on it.
this has been John Ledger. If you check him out, just go. Have you ever Googled yourself? It sounds so
Yeah.
wrong, doesn't it, out
Oh
loud?
yeah, and there were some part, and I don't know if it ever got filmed, but there was supposed to be a film coming out about the film was called John Ledger, American film about a car salesman who were an alcoholic and a sex addict, and I thought, oh shit, this is like not what I want, but that was the interesting one I found from that.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So, so obviously not right now because this is so engaging. But when this goes off in a few minutes, and you're checking out, that's John Ledger on the old internet. You'll be able to find plenty of stuff. He's not shy for sharing, and I hope you like it. I like it. It's very interesting stuff. He's been a very interesting guy to speak to.
Thanks.
Like to think we'll do this again. I'll be watching your career, be keeping tabs. If there's anything, if I can help in any small way with any kind of promotion, anything that's coming up, just shoot me a message. I'll do my bit
I
for what it's
will. Yeah.
worth.
Thank you. Yeah.
Definitely, it's good stuff. It's been a ton of fun. I'll let you go. I'll say goodbye if you want to
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
yourself
No, thank you.
off.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, sir.
I've enjoyed this a lot. Yeah, it's been a really
Thank you for
enjoyable
doing it.
conversation. Yeah. No, thank you very much to you.
Anytime.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
See you.
There he goes. Well, kids, that was John Ledger, artist. What is he? What did we discover? He's an artist. No, he's an artist. He's an artist, and he's a bloody good one and an interesting fella. That's been great. I am here again. Pretty much same bat time, same bat channel, same Fox time, same Fox channel. Next week, I think it's next week. I've got to check my own poster. But I'm here next week with Dark Electro Punk's Misery Prize. That's definitely be going to be a good one and a ton of fun. There's going to be a lot more swearing in that one. I mean, there's always swearing, but in that one next week, brace yourself, kids. That ain't getting monetized. I mean, that's not a thing I do here anyway. But next week, not a fucking prayer, but in the best possible way. So, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I'll bid you a fond farewell. Till next time. Thanks for watching.